Hey everybody, it's Brian for the Unbound series channel. You guys really liked the previous video I did, part 1 of chapter 1. So because I got so many likes for like the handful of you guys that watch, I decided to go ahead and give you guys part 2. If you guys want to keep me seeing this, I need you guys to keep hitting that like button. Let me know that you are enjoying the story. And leave a comment down below on how I can improve, because I want to give you guys the most entertaining video that I can. So I need you guys to do that for me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and continue with Keith Connor's story.
Keith wakes up to sirens passing by his neighborhood. He looks at the clock on his nightstand. The clock revealing the time to be 3 in the morning. Beside it is a picture of Keith holding a young girl. He sits up in his bed and reaches over and grabs the picture. He stares at it for a minute, with deep sadness in his eyes and a grim look on his face. Keith puts one hand on his head and the picture face down back on his nightstand. He grabs his long black coat and walks through the dimly lit house and out the front door. In the blink of an eye, Keith takes to the sky. He flies past the police vehicles and lands on top of a roof of a building. Just below, he sees what the police were called for. 3 men are robbing a small shop. At this rate, it will be another 10 minutes before the cops can get here, Keith thinks to himself. He jumps off the building and lands, hitting the ground behind the robbers. Well, 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 what do we have here? Keith shouts at the robbers as they load a truck with stolen property. The ringleader looks at the other two and says, "No witnesses." He then pulls out a handgun and starts firing at Keith. Keith manages to dodge the first few shots. "Hit him already!" one robber yells at the ringleader. "I'm trying, the fucker is quick!" The ringleader yells back as he keeps shooting. The robber fires one shot at Keith's head and Keith catches the bullet with his hand. He opens his hand and, with a confused look on his face, reveals the bullet. "It's a trick! No one's fast enough to catch bullets! Let's get him!" the ringleader yells as they all charge at Keith. The ringleader pulls out a large knife from behind his back. He charges him with it, but Keith deflects the stab away with a karate chop, knocking the ringleader's knife out of his hand, and in the process breaking his wrist with the impact. A loud crack is heard. "He broke my f***ing wrist!" the ringleader exclaims. Keith just smiles, jumps up, and roundhouse kicks the robber in the chest, and sending him straight into the wall of the building the robbers were stealing from, and knocking him unconscious. Just then, one of the robbers pulls out a 2x4 of wood from the back of the truck and strikes Keith in the back of the head with it. The 2x4 shatters into splinters. "That tickled," Keith says as he smiles darkly and grabs the robber by the head and slams it into the side of the truck, knocking him out as well. The third and final robber takes off running as fast as he can, but Keith sees him and zips past him, grabbing him by the neck and lifting him off the ground. "And where do you think you're going?" Keith taunts as he speed runs him back to where he was standing. "What are you? You're not human, man!" The last robber chokes while he's still in the air. "Yeah, you could say that," Keith replies as he makes his eyes change from blue to amber and slit like a cat. And then back to blue. Just as the last robber passes out, a shot from a gun is fired, hitting the truck. "Drop him!" the man yells. Keith looks over his shoulder to see a cop pointing a gun at him. Keith just smiles and drops the robber and jumps into the air. The cop opens fire, shooting at Keith. Moments later, Keith lands on a building a couple streets down from the robbery. Keith sighs a sigh of relief, and all of a sudden he feels a tap on his shoulder, and he turns to see a tall man in silver armor. The man then punches Keith, knocking him unconscious. Sometime later, Keith awakens in a dimly lit room. It appears to be made entirely of metal, including the chair he is sitting in. Oh, what hit me? Keith mumbles as he rubs the back of his head. That would be me, the man in silver armor comments. Keith looks back to see the man in armor, clicking and tapping away at a large computer. His armor appears bug-like in design, something resembling a dragonfly. The man also speaks with a British accent. The armor covered the man's body from head to toe. It had wings sprouting from the back and resembled swords. You better have a good reason for that, Keith threatens, his eyes turning amber again. Relax. I just couldn't have you killing those men, especially the cops, since he shot you. The armored man replies, typing away at his computer. Keith calms down, his eyes turn back to normal. Okay, fair reason. One problem though, I wasn't going to kill anyone. Those guys were scum, but they were normal. Keith says, trying to disprove the man's in metal's logic. Well, according to my studies of you, I know you can have a short temper, so apologies for the assumption, the man in metal replies. Studies? Keith questions. Well, Mr. Connors, I've been studying you and, luckily for you, covering some of your tracks. He responds almost with a sense of proudness. What are you talking about? And get to the point! Keith barks with frustration in his voice. Ever stop to wonder why you never had the police show up at your home? Or never saw someone that looked like you on TV? That's because I've been hacking government computers, private cell phones, and deleting every image and video I can find that relates to you after your awakening, as I call it. Not to mention, with a little bit of luck, most of your eyewitnesses chalk it up to drinks and drug hallucinations. Perks of fighting in alleyways and rooftops, I suppose. The man in metal exponentially explains. An awakening? What are you on about? Asked Keith. Well, before I answer that, you probably would like to know the answer to the question, what are we? The man in metal said while pacing in the room. It's crossed my mind once or twice. Clearly you're not exactly a normal human either, replies Keith with a suspicious look on his face. Keith notices what appears to be a safe with multiple compartments in it. The man in metal waves his hand and one of the safe doors opens and out comes a floating metallic canister. It slowly floats towards him. How are you doing that? Keith asked with a surprised look in his eye. Simple answer, really. One of my abilities is to manipulate and control metal with my will, answers the man in metal armor as he grabs the canister in midair. The man in armor twists open the top of the canister, pulls out a very old scroll with unfamiliar symbols on it. He lays it out gently on a metal table, straightening it out so Keith can see the symbols. And there are 24 symbols and what appears to be some kind of passage underneath, all written in language Keith does not understand. The man in metal points out to one of the symbols. Tell me, does this look familiar to you? The man in metal questions while pointing at one of the symbols. Keith's eyes grow wide with shock. He pulls down his shirt collar to reveal the birthmark located below his left collarbone. That looks exactly like the symbol on the scroll. It's my birthmark, but what's it doing on a 1,000-year-old scroll? Keith questions, confused. Try hundreds of thousands, actually. Anyway, what does the symbol look like to you? the man in metal continues. A snake with a wing, Keith says, frustrated. Close! Very close. This is a symbol of the dragon, Mr. Connors. Its symbol represents you, and you are part of an organization of guardians that stem back thousands of years, explains the man in metal. The man in metal removes one of his armored gloves to reveal a dark brown colored skinned hand with a different symbol on his palm, but also one depicted on the scroll. So you're like me then? Keith questions. Indeed, the man in metal reaffirms. Now, before I explain more of the scroll and our origins, I believe proper introductions are in order. Provided, of course, you understand that we're not enemies, offers the man in armor. Keith nods in agreement. Great! The man in metal says with a pleased tone in his voice. The man in metal armor removes his helmet and reveals his face. A young black man with long black curled hair tied in a ponytail. Keith's eyes grow wide with surprise. I know you, Keith exclaims. Jackson Clark, the heir to Clark Industries, but you can call me Jay. Jay interrupts with a confident smirk.
Okay, guys, that was Keith Connor's story. I know it was a bit of a cliffhanger this time around, but make sure you guys hit that like button. Let me know that you're enjoying the story. That's the most important part here. If you guys are enjoying the story and you want me to continue making these videos, I need you to hit that like button and just smash the snot out of it. Also, subscribe to my channel. The other thing is that I really enjoy this. This is giving me a chance to kind of showcase some of my different voices that I can do, so I'm really liking that. And yeah, just had to throw that little comment in there. Real quick, because it is the Friday video, I'm going to give you guys the shouted out YouTuber, and that is Felix New. I'm going to flash that across the screen real quick. Go check that guy out. He does a lot of like positivity stuff, and he talks about his personal life. I think he's more of a vlog channel than anything, but so far I see a lot of really interesting stuff, and I think he does a lot of interesting topics for discussion, so I think you guys should go check it out. And yes, I do have him up on my screen. I'll admit it. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, and make sure you leave a comment to help further the conversation and help decide where this channel goes in the future. I'm Brian for the Unbound Series channel. I'm signing off. Peace, guys.